Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's October. That means that we have the October 2024 astrological forecast for you. And it's keeping with the same theme that we've been seeing for a while now. And I'm sure that everybody can feel this, especially revving up towards election season. So let's jump into it. All right. So it's no mystery, as I just said, that the intensity and unpredictability is building as we step closer and closer to Election Day. Not only is the news in the United States going haywire, but it is doing so globally. Astrologically, we can point to several reasons why this is occurring. It's eclipse season, and there's 5 major planets getting ready to change signs in the next year. So we're gearing up towards that. There's a lot of planets that are either at some of the last degrees in their sign or will soon be. And also, we're gearing up for Mars retrograde. So at this moment, there's just a lot of things that are getting shaken free, that are getting shaken up, and bits and pieces that maybe aren't serving us anymore are letting themselves go from where they have been for quite some time. The United States in particular is in the midst of a great metamorphosis due to several astrological shifts. This includes the US Pluto return, the upcoming US Uranus return, the Chiron return that we've been encountering. So a lot of these same themes are being reiterated within the United States as well. And I pointed to these themes in past newsletters. So if you're interested in taking a look at what some of those are and how they manifest, then go ahead and check out the archives and you'll find some good stuff there. So we're currently preparing for these big changes to be made manifest in the coming years. But first, it's necessary to break down the belief and cultural structures that no longer serve us as a nation. So that's what's happening is we're digging deep and we're figuring out what needs to come to the surface in order to be released, and so that we can move forward in a more powerful and prominent way, and also just more real is really the invitation with this. For anyone who's ever gone through breakdown to build up processes personally, you know that this is no small task. So be gentle with one another, be gentle with yourself, which sometimes is the hardest one. Lots of self affirmations, as cheesy as that may feel sometimes. I know that's something I've been working on a lot lately as well. The 2024 Libra Solar Eclipse is the first big occurrence that happens. October begins smack dab in the middle of eclipse season. Following the heavy and emotionally soaked Pisces lunar eclipse, the Libra Solar Eclipse does promise to be less heavy and more activating, for better or for worse, highlighting and applying square to Mars. The peace and harmony that Libra is so driven to maintain is being challenged. And there are charged words and even angry discourse exchanged as a result of what unfolds. Solar eclipse charts do have a 6-month shelf life. So this one has predictive value or is looking forward into the future up until March 29th, 2025, which is when we'll have the next solar eclipse. Hence, we can expect the theme from this chart to unfold over the course of this time. Furthermore, Uranus is sesqui-square to the solar eclipse, heightening the sudden activities and accelerated circumstances that could be taking place. Definitely not as chill as what we saw with the last eclipse, bringing in a little bit more zest and vigor. Mars and Uranus are very emphasized and they have been emphasized this whole year. This isn't a new dynamic that we're seeing. We saw this to some degree in the Aries ingress chart, which is for the whole year, where we saw this in the last solar eclipse chart, which was also in April. So a lot of Mars and specifically Uranus is very heightened at this time. So what this signals is that there's acts born of self-will, sudden bursts of activity, revolutionary moments, as well as even volatility. And we're seeing that. And what I think this chart is saying is that this theme is not over yet. And Mars and Uranus are really trying to get in there and shake up, as I said before, the parts that are stagnant, the parts that aren't serving us any longer. And sometimes those processes don't look pretty as we've experienced. So, also in this solar eclipse chart, we see that women in government are also highlighted, which is not a surprise since we have a woman running for US president, and women's rights in general promise to be front and center as well. With Mars conjunct Kronos, the trans-Neptunian planet representing leadership and power, we can expect drive and possibly aggression from leaders of the United States, which we've seen some of that likely embedded in the circumstances around the upcoming presidential election. And remember, this moves forward into past the election into April 2025. So this is also a comment on where the government, where the leadership is moving forward to as well. So there's also a strong emphasis on foreign relations, as well as immigration. And the point that I'm looking at here can also really look at immigration. And if you're interested in hearing more about this chart, Sarah and I are soon to be releasing the eclipse chart for this same lunation. We're already seeing an escalation between Israel and now Hezbollah during this eclipse season. Israel in particular is sensitive to eclipses. And even Netanyahu has an eclipse chart as well. So the last time that Israel and Hezbollah were at war was in 2006. And that's when the nodes were in Pisces and Virgo, the axis that the Pisces lunar eclipse a couple of weeks ago took place in. So it makes sense that this is now escalating at this time. The initial attacks between Israel and Hamas took place during eclipse season last year. And the 2024 Libra Solar Eclipse chart illustrates that the U.S. could become more involved in these activities in the coming months, which is definitely possible. Legal issues are also pointed to in the Libra Solar Eclipse chart, and the time frame that I looked at within my recent research project on the election suggests that there could very well be some legal issues or challenges or events happening post this election, which could definitely make sense as far as what this chart's saying as well. I suspect that this could illustrate, again, possible legal action being undertaken after the elections. Personally expect to be woken up from the sleepy energy, groggy and potentially depressed Pisces lunar eclipse that we just had a couple weeks ago. It was quite heavy, just felt soggy. It was hard to get up and going. It felt like everything was just a lot. The jolt into action with this solar eclipse could actually feel revitalizing and exciting. Just be careful that you're not overdoing it and that you bite off more than you can chew. Part of the activity could be inspired by the political environment as well and the culture that lives around that. And it affects all of us. Could make everyone just feel a little bit more on edge. Everyone's likely to be living right on the edge of excitement for the future and fear of the unknown. Take really good care of your nervous system. And moving on, the next big events take place around Jupiter and Pluto, as well as Mars. They're highlighted in the middle of October and actually it begins the end of September, but really ramps up towards the middle of October and lasting until about October 17th. So as Jupiter stations retrograde, which is one of the things we're looking at, it stations retrograde on October 9th, and Pluto stations retrograde on October 11th. So although Jupiter and Pluto will not be in a traditional aspect with one another, they will be aligned through what we call declination, which is equal to a conjunction, or the two planets being in the same space with one another. And Mars is part of this as well. Pluto is parallel to both Mars and Jupiter are parallel to one another. You don't have to remember that. That's just for the nerdy astrologers who want that information. So all in all, this is very opportunistic and positive combination. This points towards powerful people who are able to take decisive action towards a goal. We could see notable movements in the financial markets, as well as game-changing tactics amongst powerful entities and or individuals. So with Mars in there, that doesn't always mean that it's going to be a peaceful time. This could also be power taking over and going too far, doing more than it should. From a world stage perspective, from a personal perspective, this could be a time when you're able to, quote unquote, step into your power a little bit more. So the Jupiter making that process a little bit easier than if you just had the Mars Jupiter there on their own. Jupiter will station retrograde at 21 degrees Gemini, 20 minutes, and will be heading towards its second square to Saturn in Pisces on December 24th, 2024. As mentioned in the August 2024 newsletter, this is an important alignment for the government in particular. Jupiter and Saturn meet up at 0 degrees Aquarius. They met up at 0 degrees Aquarius on December 2020. And this opening square is the unfolding of changes manifested at that time. In addition, Pluto is at 0 degrees Aquarius, or moving back and forth. And it will be there when this next square perfects in December. And it was there for the first square a little bit ago. So this reiterates the importance of that seed moment in 2020, this reflecting of one another back to that 0 Aquarius point where Pluto is, to this opening square now between Jupiter and Saturn, and as they meet, saying that there's a real transformation in the government, as well as just the leadership structures that we depend upon. Personally, this can also reflect ways that we're developing. And if you look at your chart and see what you have around 21 degrees of the mutable signs, that's Gemini, Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, and also what you have around 0 degrees fixed signs, which is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So take a look at your chart, see if any of those are being pinged as well. Life could be moving much more quickly and fluidly at this time, and or we could be dealing with excess in our day-to-day lives. Did you spend too much money? Have you been too optimistic about your finances or something else? Have you been indulging in food or other parts of your life? Have you been overdoing it with Netflix binging or video games? I do none of these things. We could be encouraged to adjust to these habits as Jupiter stops to station retrograde. While Jupiter is the great benefic, it is true that you can have too much of a good thing. And that could be something that we're being pointed to, especially since this retrograde cycle really has to do with Jupiter square to Saturn, because that's the biggest aspect that it will be perfecting during this retrograde cycle. Where are the ways that we need to pare down? Where have we gone too far? And how do we pare back and make things more sustainable, which Saturn likes, in order to have the affluence, which Jupiter is really pointing towards. So Pluto stations direct on October 11th, 2024 at 29 degrees Capricorn, 38 minutes. It is a noteworthy moment in that it is ushering in Pluto's last moments in the sign of Capricorn since its initial ingress in January 2008. So we've been talking about this for a long time. Pluto will make its way through the final bit of Capricorn before its decisive ingress into Aquarius on November 19th, 2024. During its ingress, Pluto will be in an opposition to Mars. This is really important, who will be slowing to stop for its retrograde, which begins on December 6, 2024. This opposition will be a key signature to the upcoming Mars retrograde, as well as the archetypal essence that sets the tone for nearly 20 years of Pluto in Aquarius. At its core, Mars opposite Pluto represents power struggle, as well as the ability to accomplish monumental tasks and to have superhuman ambition. There is also the potential for a great force to be used in order to maintain control over one's power. This signature is baked into the election itself, as well as the time immediately following the election. Buckle in for a turbulent election and post-election. We could see some of these storylines that will set the stage for the near future to make themselves visible as Pluto stations direct. Mercury squaring Pluto immediately after Pluto stations on October 13th reiterates that powerful, impactful messages and communication will take place on and around this time. Next, we move on to the Aries full moon. On October 17th, 2024, the Aries full moon will take place, and it takes place at 24 degrees, 35 minutes. This full moon highlights a lot of intense astrological activity. So here we are again, a lot of zest to our full moon. First of all, the sun is exactly conjunct TNP Zeus and quincunx Uranus, which illustrates the importance of leadership at this time. The leaders are in the spotlight. With Uranus involved, this suggests that there's an instability or unforeseen circumstances manifesting in the leadership. However, what is taking place could be challenging or even impossible to manage. There could be no current guidelines within our country to outline how to manage what is occurring with the leadership. And we've been seeing this since June of this summer. So it looks like more of that storyline is going to be manifesting. In addition, the Aries full moon is square to Mars in Cancer and Pluto in Capricorn at 29 degrees, forming a grand cross. Hence, the power struggles between Mars and Pluto that were described above are being pulled intimately into this full moon. From a mundane or world perspective, those who hold power in our world are making big moves that can make long-term impacts in the political landscape. On a personal level, be careful of being too pompous or shifting your weight around in potentially harmful ways. We could all be feeling quite sensitive, and our nervous systems could be on overdrive with little reprieve in sight. So go easy on yourself and go easy on those around you. If you find yourself in a power struggle, back off and breathe. Take a moment to evaluate what your motives are and if the rift that you may create is actually worth it. If you have not been adequately advocating for yourself up till now, figure out why. Where are you allowing yourself to kowtow to the powers around you? Maybe the force that you are putting into the current circumstances are overcompensating because you're acting from repressed self-activism. And in closing, amongst the tumultuous activity that we are likely to be immersed within this month, take time to reflect on what is in need of deep metamorphosis in you personally. Maybe it's just your wardrobe or your kitchen cupboards. It could be simple, or maybe it's something a little bit more deep, like a relationship, your diet, or your career. Whatever it is, be sure to use gentle compassion as you navigate the challenges that profound change can provoke. The upcoming elections are in many ways ushering in the immense shifts that 2025 and 2026 promised to provoke. Check in with your most central and grounded intuition when presented with activated belief systems and or political stances. We are sure to be faced with fanciful stories, and many will be sold hook, line, and sinker. Do what you can to navigate the divisions that are sure to occur due to these misleading and often emotionally charged messages. Finally, be the peace that you want to see in the world. Lots of love to each and every one of you. See you next time. Happy October. Check out all of my stuff. Go to my website, see what I have available there. Lots of upcoming stuff. And I can't wait to see you next time. Take care. Bye, everybody.